actually going to go ahead and just get started, and then people can join as they're coming in. I don't have a lot that I actually want to say because this is really about our alumni, but I do want to thank our alumni for joining us. Come on in. That's what I thought. It's been a while since I had to say your last name, and I was going to feel a little guilty if what I remembered and what the reality was different. So we currently have 4 of our alumni here. We do have a 5th, but they're coming, I believe, via train. So they may be kind of doing a slide in there. Justin, now I'm overthinking this.
Justin Fehntrich.
Fehntrich. Graduated in 2016 with a coastal environmental science degree. Jessica Kaplan, who is joining us via Zoom. She is currently out in nature enjoying the sunshine. Graduated in 2016 as well with an environmental humanities major and an anthropology minor. We have Mia Ramirez, who is on the far end. And they graduated in 2020 with a double major of environmental studies and psychology. And they took a whole lot of ecosystems and human impact courses. Almost a minor, not quite the minor. And then we have Jade, who graduated the following year in 2017 with a coastal environmental science degree and a marine science minor. I'm really not going to do much more talking than that since we're really here to hear them talk. So I don't know who would like to start with the introduction. Justin. Okay, then I will throw, Justin has a PowerPoint that we can share. So let me just do this real quick.
See, so I can watch you.
See if the clicker has that.
So, hey everybody, my name is Justin. I am an environmental biologist working in South Florida. Currently I work in the private sector for an engineering firm. And my team primarily works to develop renewable energy, mostly solar. And basically, like, super high level description is we do environmental analysis on very large sites to reduce impacts, promote conservation, and protect wildlife. So any development that occurs will have as little environmental impact as possible. So somebody had pointed out some of the vegetation in this. This is the Northern Everglades. It's photo in the background. This is a really common ecosystem we find in South Florida, pine flatwoods, contrary to popular opinion, Florida is not all beaches. So this is one of my favorite habitats, a lot of really cool wildlife. And it's just enjoyable to spend time out in the field. So as I said, most of my work is to promote environmentally sustainable development, renewable energy, solar. I really don't do much wind, but some of my colleagues do. Residential development, the same principles apply. You have a large piece of land that somebody would like to develop, and they'll have us come in, a team of biologists, and assess the entire site, come up with determinations about how we can develop a site and have, as I said, as little environmental impact as possible. Utilities are a common client. Up here, it's PSCG Long Island. HDD, which is horizontal directional drill. It's not just fracking, it's installing subterranean electric cables as well to provide more storm resistant electrical distribution to communities. And health and education, if they want to build like a new hospital or a university. Again, the same principles all apply there. This is another very common habitat you would see in South Florida, freshwater, forested wetlands. Very common to come across these on your private sites. So really, I guess, sort of like the most common type of work that we're doing is environmental assessments. And that's taking all of the information, collecting data, making observations about habitat, wildlife, and ecosystems, and basically putting it all into a report and just kind of work and not just letting the client know, but working with engineers and developers to basically have a sustainable, final development plan. Wetland delineations are probably one of the most sought after skills. I would recommend if you could ever take any wetland classes, definitely do that. Not only are they super interesting, you get to really get in there and examine soils, and you're like basically the whole point is to define wetland boundaries. Because you want to be able to know where your wetlands are, because those are going to be areas that are prone to flooding, and wildlife and ecosystems aside, nobody wants their development flooding all the time. So like, yes, drainage studies, stormwater management, wetland delineations, help with that. Species surveys, South Florida especially has a very high biodiversity rate. There's numerous listed species that only occur in like the Everglades region, throughout the Florida Peninsula. So I think it's very important to protect these species and preserve their habitats. And then basically at the end of everything, environmental permitting, once you collect all your data, you have your reports, and then we're going to go for your permits, whether that be state, county, and in some instances, federal. But that being said, we do try to avoid federal permitting as much as possible, just because the added layer of time, cost, and honestly, there's some uncertainty there with constant changes in federal rules and regulations. Wetland delineations, like I said, if you could take a wetland course, it's super interesting. If you're a dirt nerd or like a lot of us, look at soils. This is an example of a hydric soil. See these orange areas would be redox, which is essentially rust that occurs based on the metals that are found in all the soils. And that is evidence that you have a hydric soil and it will support a plant that is a wetland. Wetland vegetation, hydric veg, this is pickerelweed, which grows all over Florida. And that's, if you see that on your site, like you're probably in a wetland. It doesn't always have to grow in standing water like that. It'll also grow in just saturated soils. Also hydrology. I like to rely on LiDAR just as a baseline when I'm getting out to a site, just so I can focus on areas that I'm maybe interested in. Some of the LiDAR coming out now is just like really, really high level. There's a lot of private firms too that provide drone LiDAR services as well, so you can get like real-time topography, and it's just very impressive what they're putting out now with technology. These are some of the listed species that we find in Florida. The top are some I've worked with more so than the bottom three. Crested caracara is a raptor in the falcon family. They were actually isolated in the Florida Peninsula during the last ice age, so they are a relative population. The species also ranges in Mexico and Central America. Gopher tortoise is my personal favorite. I'm an FWC, which is Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission gopher tortoise agent, which means I am permitted to work with, relocate, mark, and transport gopher tortoises to recipient sites, which are essentially nature preserves that, say, for example, if you want to develop a site and you have like 20 gopher tortoises on it, we can literally get out there, take them out of the ground safely, and relocate them to a nature preserve where they will be, they can live there in perpetuity and never have to worry about their area being developed again. Florida grasshopper sparrow is a very cool one because it's one of the top 8 endangered species in North America, and it only occurs in Central Florida in the Kissimmee River Basin. You can talk to biologists who have surveyed for this species for years and they've never found them. We actually found a subpopulation on a private ranch 2 years ago that our data was used in research studies, and I think there was just a showing in New York like last week. Somebody had done a film on the grasshopper sparrow. There's only like 100 breeding pairs left in the wild. Really cool bird. I'll have you talk more about it. Burrowing owls, they pop up all over your sites that are sandy. I have some projects that go into the primary range. have yet to see one, but they've probably seen me because they're so elusive. And Forest Scrub Jay, which is like a really cool blue jay. Just quick high level stuff, say this is a development site, this is an actual project that we had just permitted, everything that I'm gonna show you right now is now public information. So you can actually just look it all up, and it's no longer required. So it's the 640-acre ranch in DeSoto County, Florida, Arcadia, if you're familiar with the area. This site has a lot going on, there's some cleared areas that were used for cattle grazing. On-site habitats include that improved pasture for cattle, there's surface water features, forested areas, and wetlands. So, essentially what we're trying to do is create a map of our site and use that information for permitting purposes and conservation. Oh, and there's also plenty of listed species habitat on this site in the northwest and in the southeast. And that's just a quick review of the aerial. This is actually just from Google Earth. GIS, definitely take GIS classes as well, because every person I interview that comes up if they have GIS experience. So basically what we've done on this site is we've delineated all of our wetlands, which you see in purple, our surface water features in blue and light blue, and the green are basically just conveying swale. So this is our wetland map of our site. And that's going to be used, like I said, for stormwater management and site development. We want to try to avoid as many wetlands as possible. If a developer wanted to impact them, they would have to pay mitigation, which is essentially real estate prices. Average cost for mitigation is about $200,000 per acre. So if you want to impact 10 acres of wetlands, it's going to cost you probably $2 million to try and habitat. This site also had a crested caracara nest that we discovered, and they are required to have a 300-meter buffer, which is that blue circle that is around the green nest location. You also cannot impact within their nest buffer. That's their primary range where they forage. When they're young fledged, they will utilize that area for feeding and grazing. We actually do have 2 projects right now that are part of a research project to see the impact of solar panels on their foraging habitat. And we're finding that that once a solar site is completed, birds, raptors, most wildlife will continue to forage and utilize the site post-development, which is very promising. This is the crested caracara. I did not take this photo, unfortunately. I'm not that good at wildlife photographer. So these surveys are very interesting. They run from January 1st to April nesting season. Survey protocols take you up to be on site about 15 minutes before sunrise. So if your site's 2 hours away, you're getting up pretty early. But a lot of these are found in the middle of the state on a lot of ranch lands, and it's really kind of awesome to just kind of watch the sun come up on a ranch while you're doing a bird survey. So a lot of the biologists on my team, at first they're like, oh my gosh, I have to wake up what time? Like 3:30 in the morning. And by the end of the season, they're like, that was awesome. I'm like, I can't wait to do it again next year. So we start off with general surveys, which is where we're looking for birds on the site, and then we'll essentially follow them like in trucks to try to find where their nest tree is. And then once we confirm a nest tree, we switch to productivity, which is where we monitor the nest and look for things like this. Watch for the bird bringing nesting materials, snakes, any sort of dead like food items to their young in the nest. They typically have 2 young at a time, but I've seen them with up to 3 juveniles in it. And it's pretty cool to watch them with like a spotting scope, because like when the adults bring back like a small mammal, they just tear it. It's pretty metal. This is my site photo compared to the professional one. So this is 2 juveniles in a confirmed nest that I was monitoring. This is just an iPhone through a field scope. You don't want to get too close to these trees because you don't want to disturb them and cause them to fledge prematurely. So we just kind of spy on them from like 100 yards away or so. So now this is our development plan that we've worked with engineers. My firm has engineers on our team, so we coordinate with them directly to avoid any wetlands and any species habitat. You can see all the purple areas are avoided, and that caracara nest buffer up in the northeast is also. There are some surface water crossings, but in the state of Florida, if you can keep your wetland and surface water impacts below a half an acre, you don't need to mitigate. So that's rule of thumb. If you're under a half acre, probably get away without mitigation. This is really cool now. So as I mentioned, once these solar sites are completed, agrivoltaics is what's being, that's the term they're calling it, having grazing animals utilize these sites once they're completed. I did not take this photo either. We don't really have too many sheep, but this is just a good picture. But like Florida honestly just has a ton of cattle. You'd be really surprised. There's cattle everywhere. They free graze. They look like they have great lives, honestly. Like I would want to be a cow in South Florida. Basically just this, walking around, eating grass all day, hanging out. And so now some counties in particular are requiring this now. Like, if you want to build solar, you have to have some sort of like grazing animal utilizing that site as well. So now you're getting energy production and you're getting food production, or like in sheep, I guess, wool production as well. So yeah, I think it's just a really beneficial way to generate energy. Another thing that's good about solar is it's not costly. Like if you think about a natural gas plant in terms of everything that goes into that, from like inception to when it's operational, you're looking at 10 years of studies, engineering, because you're going to have like your civil plans, your electrical plans, like there's a lot of work that goes into any type of plant. Whereas solar panels, we will maybe spend like a year doing our environmental studies and our permitting, and then it'll take a year to build. So you can have, it's 2 years, relatively low cost overall in terms of other types of energy, and it's solar, so it's renewable. And then once it's permitted, as the technology improves over time, you could essentially double your energy output on one solar site as the technology improves. Currently, each site, we keep it to about 49.5 megawatts, and that will power 15,000 homes. We found this guy on one of our sites, not advisable to handle alligators, but we have some on the Medical Road so we can get into him. So he was fun to get a photo shoot and safely released. Yeah, do you guys have any questions?
So I say, can we do questions maybe at the end, get everyone
Yes.
introduced? That might be the quickest way. Just as a quick note, because I did check the documentary about Florida's grasshopper sparrow is called The Little Brown Bird.
Yes.
And it does have showings going on at local film fests. So keep an eye out on Long Island.
Yeah, I would love to see it, but I don't think they're actually not showing it anywhere in Florida. So ironic. But yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you. Mia, would you like to go next? Oh,
I put one on in front of me.
It's all good.
Wait, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, you don't actually need a clicker for yours.
I'll hold this. Hi, everybody. My name is Mia. I am the Environmental Educator 1, or Director of Education is the internal title at the Jones Beach Energy and Nature Center here on Long Island. I graduated here at Stony Brook in 2020 with the degree in environmental studies. Loved it. Would do it again, but don't need to because you already have a bachelor's degree. And I've been working at the Nature Center since 2020. It's been 5 years now, coming up in the fall. And I really enjoy basically talking to people, getting out there in the environment, so I get to do the environmental and the education, as the title implies. Some of the stuff we handle out at the Nature Center is we have school groups come by, we have scout groups come by, we have college students come by, we have everyone walk through our doors at some point, and by golly, we're going to talk to you. So we have a few different programs that go out talking about the dune ecosystem at Jones Beach. If you're really familiar with going and swimming, you can also go head west from those swimming beaches and find our nature center and over 200, almost 300 acres of protected area for different animal and plant populations that need the dune ecosystem. If you've ever gone to a beach here on Long Island, you've probably heard of piping plovers, tiny little birds that love to nest in holes that you can't really see on the beach while you're walking around and drop their eggs right there. So just protect the habitat for them so people don't step on their eggs when you guys are all going out and enjoying the beach. So what we do is doing outreach and kind of giving people a heads up about these endangered species. We'll also coordinate volunteer programs so you can go out and help. With those endeavors, we just had a beach cleanup yesterday for Earth Day, so go Earthy. And in addition to that, we have not only the environmental educators at my facility, but we also have a team of people who just keep the behind the scenes running, that love the environment. We have a whole team of office workers who keep all the paperwork pushing, so we're able to get done what needs to get done. And also maintenance workers that keep the facilities and the park looking just really nice for everyone who comes and enjoy it. I really enjoy being in public service. This is a state parks position, so I am a state employee. And I really enjoy knowing that the stuff we accomplish at the center is for the public. So, you know, everyone who's paid taxes, that's what your taxes get sent to, is people like me who are trying to keep our parks looking pristine and helping the wildlife, people in the DEC who keep everything regulated and make sure that people are, you know, when they have to go into development, when they have to go into research, keeping all of that running. And if you're someone who also enjoys working with people, you feel like working in civil service or public service would give you a lot of meaning as well, I really do recommend looking into New York State positions, because there are a lot out there and there's a lot of different places to go into. And if you are not an introvert and you are an extrovert and are very people person oriented, highly recommend going into environmental education. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of the other things I've we've all done at Stony Brook, and I can point out a bajillion things that Stony Brook gave me that really set me up well for this position. But I think I will hand over the mic to our next presenter. Any questions for?
And just as a note, there are a couple of seasonal positions with the New York State Parks on the Long Island region that are currently being advertised. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Why don't we have Jessica? Are you able to go ahead and join us, and then I can set up Jade your show.
Yeah, sounds good. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Hi everyone, I'm Jess Kaplan. I'm the director of horticulture for Riverside Park Conservancy. Riverside Park is massive but very skinny. We run from 59th Street to 181st Street along the Hudson River, between the Hudson River and Riverside Drive. And we have a lot of different environments here. I help manage meadows, wooded areas, even our own kind of little swamp wetland that we've created. And my job is really to work with our roughly 27 full-time gardeners to kind of see projects through. I help them kind of develop planting palettes. We do pruning together. I do professional development. So really trying to enrich our gardeners' lives here and make sure they're doing work that they're interested in. So that's kind of my day-to-day. I also work kind of in the background. I work with our development team to bring in private donations and also to apply for grants. Being a nonprofit employee, you wear many hats and you step in and kind of do the things you have to do to bring in money so everyone can do the jobs that we love the work that they do. So I do that. I also am working on developing a better urban forestry plan for this park. We have roughly, I would say, about 18,000 trees, so somewhat similar to Central Park. And there's currently really no master plan for them. So that's something I've been focused on, using some grant money to kind of figure out the systems change to make conservancies, friends groups, other 501c3s that work in parks, how we can work better alongside the Parks Department, which is something we're always trying to do better. We work very closely with our city colleagues. So we're the nonprofit side, and we really try to work alongside what the Parks Department needs done, and we kind of help each other out to make sure Riverside is clean, green, and thriving. So that's kind of the bulk of my job right now. Is kind of the craziest time. My team is currently sorting through about 800 plants for our volunteer team. We have about 50 volunteers that are getting plants in the next week or so. So along with the gardeners, I'm also helping the volunteer team kind of get their volunteers trained up, make sure that they know what they're doing. And I'll just say one more thing that I forgot that's important, that we'll probably talk about a bit more, but my background is really Northeast native plants, and I can talk a little bit more about what that means later. But we really focus on kind of reestablishing the plants that would have been here pre-colonization. So I get to do a lot of research, which is a lot of fun. My job really kind of lets me grow and learn and really take things where I want to, which is really cool. So I think I'll stop there. That's kind of a good overview of my position here at Riverside.
Okay, thank you, Jess. Now let me share your screen.
I wanted to know, in the room, how many of you guys are undergrads? Okay, sweet. So I interpreted this endeavor slightly differently than everyone else. I'm kind of going to talk about how I came into being, more like my path. So I graduated in December 2017 with a BS in Coastal Environmental Studies and a minor in Marine Science. This is me happily on the coast. I did not look like this when I was an undergrad. A more relevant picture would be me asleep in the library. So if you don't feel like this, it's okay. You will. Oh wait, I don't know if my cooking is clicking.
I will click for you. Sometimes it does this.
Oh no.
So just tell me when to click. Oh, it's not doing anything.
Oh, maybe we're not clicked. There we go.
That was me.
Okay, beautiful. So when I was an undergrad, I was set to graduate, and I was going to graduate a semester earlier than I actually did, but I went to a presentation by Kurt Brecht and Tara Ryder that I didn't want to go to, and I got dragged there by my friends. They talked about Semester by the Sea, and I signed up and I extended my undergrad an extra semester. It was the most life-changing thing I've ever done because it's where I solidified some major points, which is that I love the East End of Long Island, and that I figured out what does it mean to do science. You think that if you have most of an undergrad degree in a science, in a Bachelor of Science, you would know what doing science means. Shockingly, science and implementation and implementing the actual scientific method is much different than studying and taking classes. So by working in labs was the only way I really began to understand what does it mean to do science. And that is what Semester by the Sea gave me. Look at all these cute nerds. Suggest it for everyone. Oh no.
Just tell me when to.
Thank you. Okay, so after I did Semester by the Sea, that summer I applied to research experience for undergrads, the National Science Foundation REU program. All of my friends told me that nobody ever gets these and you're wasting your time. I applied to 5. I got 4 of them and got to choose which one I would go to. Why? It's because I spent Semester by the Sea really understanding what does it mean to do science. And when you read an application from a student that actually understands that, you know that they are going to contribute to that project, and instead of just being, you know, it's a way that you write your application. And we thank God for Dr. Tara Ryder right here, who put her magic fairy dust all over my application to help me to show that. And it worked. So leaning into the resources here at Stony Brook is extremely important. So that took me to Galveston, Texas. I worked at Texas A&M. I studied blue crabs and foraging and climate change. I got on a publication. I was the second author on a publication on the research that I worked on there. How did I get on a publication? I was just an undergrad. I asked them. You just have to ask for things, apparently. Be aware. That's a secret. Yep. Thank you. So that's Texas. So then I came back. I graduated. I did my last semester. Then I had a meltdown that I was never going to have a job. Oh, this was something else I wanted to say before I said any of this. I am from Levittown in Nassau County. My dad is a cop and my mom is a nurse. They're the most pragmatic, normal people ever. In this field, you will find a lot of pedigree people that were born into doing this, and you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe that you are worthy of being here. When I told my parents I was majoring in this, their brains exploded, and they got my bedroom ready for me to go back there immediately. So you have to believe in yourself. So I had a breakdown that I was never gonna have a job. I went onto the website Student Conservation Association, a website that I heard about from Dr. Tara Ryder and all the gang at Semester by the Sea.
Joinsca.org.
Yes, I think that there's a fee to see all the actual job postings. You'll get desperate enough and you'll pay the fee. It works. I got a job out of it. So I packed up my little car and I drove across the country to Channel Islands. It's the most unbelievable national park ever. I was a restoration ecology intern there. I worked there for over a year. I studied fire ecosystems. I ended up doing independent research. They were like, oh, you're an intern. You're supposed to be like pulling weeds and, you know, doing restoration matting on the sides of mountains. I asked to do research because a wildfire broke out and I wanted to study how the wildfire was affecting plants. I teamed up with a botanist, made an entire research program that still is existing there, and then ended up like giving that research to presentations across California. Why? Because I just asked. That's literally it. And so through this, I got introduced to fire ecosystems. I got introduced to the Nature Conservancy, a worldwide nonprofit that owned a part of the island. And I got introduced to forest health monitoring. This is key into the future. So when I got back in my car, because of the administration that was happening in 2017 and 18, and I had to leave California, on my way back, I called up the Nature Conservancy in New York, and I got a job on Mashantuck Preserve in Shelter Island. Again, because I asked. Through this position, I lived on Shelter Island for 6 months. I met Nicole Marr, who is a research scientist, who also is a Stony Brook alum. She is one of my heroes. The advice of this slide is go out into the world and meet your heroes. You have to meet people whose lives you want. When I was in undergrad, there was no professor whose life I wanted. So I went out to the world and tried to find somebody whose life I wanted. Nicole Marr is my hero. And that's also a hint into the future. Also, Shelter Island. I learned that I love the East End. And I was doing more forest health. Okay. So after that, I left Shelter Island and I started working for the Central Pine Barrens Commission. The Pine Barrens is also on the East End. It's this protected region. It's an amazing story about how you can protect land. It's a whole thing, but I had the best job. I explored off trail in the forest all day long. I played with box turtles. I found all these illegal forts in the forest. And I really got a sense of place. So having community and a sense of place when you are walking around these off-trail environments, and it's like, this is what it means to be on the east end of Long Island. It's so beautiful and it really connected me to a place. It also gave me the opportunity to expand on the fire ecosystem information and forest health information that I had gathered throughout my career. And I got to become a wildland firefighter. And then they just train you, they give you a chainsaw, you go out into the forest and you set wildfires. And it is exactly what a fire-dependent ecosystem on Long Island needs. And the level of support that program is in need of today for all ecosystem management is, we need so much support in that realm, especially on the East End, the way it's connected to the aquifer. I can obviously go on forever, but this was something, again, my degree is in coastal and marine science, and I'm setting prescribed burns. So just be aware you're accumulating these different things. So while I was at the Pine Barrens Commission, there wasn't enough money for me to be on full time. So I had Fridays off because I was part-time. What did I do? I called up the local preschool and asked them if I could be a science teacher. So I was a STEM preschool and daycare teacher. I literally brought them ducks. I brought in giant coolers filled with crazy marine animals. And I taught literally 6-month-old babies were feeling leaves for the first time and all this fun stuff up to 6 years old. And I talked to the teachers about how do we instill the love for nature in children. Not at all what I thought I would be doing, but I did it because it re-inspired me on creating impact, and I loved it. And I also was a bartender on the East End, which is so fun. Again, sense of place, community is what really is driving me. So after all of that, all those gigs, I was working all the time. I applied for my job. Now, at the Peconic Estuary Partnership, which is the National Estuary Program on the east end of Long Island. PEP was absorbed by the fiscal host of Stony Brook University in 2018, 2019, which means that I'm a Stony Brook employee now. And I love my job so deeply. This little snippet will tell you a little bit about what I do. But overall, I describe the partnership as it's my job to help to create a table where different entities, organizations, nonprofits, and municipalities, we all come together at the table that I make, right? I make everybody please come to this event. That table, we all sit at that table for specific projects and we talk about how do we collectively raise enough money, leverage that money? How do we design a project that's data and science-based? And how do we implement that? And we're working through what are the policy issues? What are the process issues? Overall, I'm really trying to figure out how do we actually get something done? And how do we make sure that it's science-based? And I love my job, it's magical. So I get to go out to the field, I get to do saltworks monitoring. I'm working on piloting new methods. I'm working on connecting nonprofits and local governments. And this is all on the East End because I have a deep sense of place. And feeling like you have community is the key to partnership, and partnership is the way that we get real science to do real work in the real world, which is kind of what I've devoted myself to. And then this is the picture of us literally this past summer, I think, talking about all of the work that I'm doing in the Peconics, all of my restoration projects on the same boat in that other picture where all the nerds were during Semester by the Sea, the same boat. So overall, my message, the next one, my message to you really is, I remember sitting in these kinds of events that Tara puts on. You're seeing all these people with these big jobs that are really changing the world. I remember feeling, how can that be me? And the truth is that you will accumulate experiences over your life and you'll build upon them and you'll find your own path in that way. So you just really have to believe in yourself. You have to get out there. Above all, genuine curiosity is the thing that drives everything. You cannot outpace someone with real, genuine curiosity in their own research, in other people's research, in other people's lives. And that's because connection is like the basis of everything. Majority of the things in my career I have gotten because I have really devoted myself to connecting with that person and asking what they think I'm capable of doing. And you have to advocate for yourself. You have to get out there and do that. Okay, that's my pep talk.
Thank you to all of you for kind of giving a brief introduction on some of the things that you want to do. What we really want to do is open this up to questions. I do have some prepared questions, but I'd also like to open it up. I know people who are on Zoom, if you want to throw them in the Q&A or if you want to unmic, but I don't know if anyone has questions already at this point that you would like to put out.
I have one quick one for Justin. You have the picture about solar panels with the sheep.
Yes.
So in Florida, you said those solar panel arrays now have to have farmland associated with them. It's typically cattle, right?
Yes. Sheep is a bad example, but that's just a good photo.
Yeah. Is there a particular height that the panels have to be? Or like are you worried about cattle damaging panels?
That's literally what we talk about all the time. Because cattle just, because we have a lot of sites that are on ranches, and even like our wetland flagging team, like they'll just come along and like munch up, which is probably not good for them, and I don't know why they want to eat things that aren't food. But what they're simply doing is for cattle, they'll be your site fence, and then they'll fence in the panels if they have a lower profile, so that way the cattle have a grazing area, and then the panels are sort of like isolated, so they can't really have to.
Because I can see like it's a shady spot where they can sit under like a tree.
Exactly, yeah.
And scratch.
Yeah, no, it's true. But yeah, cattle are, they get it covered.
That's deep in the weeds, but.
No, that's a very appropriate question.
I have a question. Did you get into environmental assessment like right out of college, or like what did you do like before that like for energy? That's it.
Sure, no, that's a great question too. So what I would say is definitely like use LinkedIn as LinkedIn's a powerful tool for networking, as Jade mentioned, like just making connections with people. So I think it was like my senior year, I really just like kind of beefed up my LinkedIn and trying to be active on it. And then I would just start, filling out applications to roles I thought were interesting. And I got a job offer at an engineering firm based in North Jersey, but they also had offices around Long Island and South Jersey as well. So I essentially got into environmental consulting and doing wetland delineations and different assessments and studies, trying to just kind of getting out there and kind of going off of what you said, just like asking for it and just really just asserting, being like assertive and really going for it and not, having the mindset of like, I've got nothing to lose. I applied for like 20 jobs this week, eventually something will stick and it'll probably be something you want.
Can I jump on the networking bit? One thing I felt like when I was a Stony Brook student is that I felt networking was a scam. I was like, why am I gonna go to a job fair and then like someone's just gonna like give me a job because I like wore a nice shirt and had a resume on me. And I feel like a lot of times when you're an undergrad, or even like when you start, your professional career, people don't tell you like what networking, actually how to network. And job fairs and things like that are a good way to just get your foot in the door. And you might be like, oh my gosh, I'm desperate for a job. But really, like, you're the commodity. Like, employers are going there because they're trying to see what the talent is out there. So you're going with the mindset less of like, oh my gosh, they're going to give me something, and more like, I'm trying to find the best match for me. So you should go onto those endeavors and be like, what's this organization about? Like, I'm gonna have a conversation with this recruiter. Do I like what we're talking about? Do we actually like get along? And networking isn't just like collecting cards and being like, oh, like we're all gonna do each other favors. It's like you actually have to go out there and talk to people and find out who you genuinely do connect with to build your network. And then really like for the next step after that, it's going to things like, especially in the environmental field, a lot of these organizations have like volunteer opportunities where they have like other like public events you can go join where you have something in common to talk about other than those jobs. And that's really how you're gonna like get in and make a better connection. And things like LinkedIn are absolutely great. You can definitely, if you know how to like utilize LinkedIn and find yourself like the recruiters and get those conversations started on LinkedIn, that's also totally amazing. So there's a lot of different routes for you to go for networking. And I'll also say another big benefit for networking is like, sometimes you're gonna be there and you're gonna be like, I'm sending all of these job applications into the void. I've sent out 800, why am I doing this? Sometimes if you're the first person to even like hear of the jobs because you were in that network and you get your foot in the door early, that's also gonna get the attention of people who are hiring or, placing you for these things. Is just because you have that advantage from the start of being in the network. So like focusing on growing that as an undergrad by going to these events, by talking to your professors, by volunteering, by doing undergrad research, that's gonna build your network.
For like all of them, do you ever see like a benefit in having a master's degree in this field? I don't know if any of you have a master's, or like if you don't, if like you think that it's not necessary, or like what are your thoughts?
What you guys are very
Complex relationship.
Yeah.
So with full transparency, I do not have a master's. I was actually looking into master's programs when I got my first job offer. So I had to make a decision. I'm like, do I want to take this job offer and gain work experience, or do I want to pursue a master's, which I was also really passionate about. But I think it really comes down to what's best for you at the time. Like I was in a situation where like kind of needed a job, and I mean it's always there too. Like I mean I feel like the idea of getting my master's like months ago, like just a matter of time and what works best for you.
Jessica, I don't think do you have a master's?
I do not.
Okay.
I will say, in my position, I don't really need it. It's more of the on the ground experience that matters. And I will say for me, I was someone who really wanted to get a master's and maybe a PhD. But now that I'm in the workforce, I kind of find it more fun to learn on the job, and I'm kind of able to go to conferences and kind of do like the everyday learning that I think kind of fills that need for education. Because I would have stayed in school forever if I could have, but I can't afford that. So I had to get a job. So I picked a job where I can be learning every single day from those around me, from the land, from everything. So it kind of worked out for me.
Yeah, that's his point. I think if you can find something where you're gonna be learning all the time, that's super rewarding and that'll just make it that much better of an experience.
Yeah, you can always go to graduate school, keep that in mind. So when I was an undergrad, I was cutthroat at Stony Brook. I was like, I am gonna be better. And I was said that I was gonna get a PhD and I was gonna be a professor. And I was gonna be just like my professor, and we would all be best friends, and we would live happily ever after. And then I realized that when I did my, when I went to Galveston and I worked on that project and I did that publication, and I worked with this PhD student who I learned from her life. She went straight from undergrad into a PhD, and even just doing field work with her and being with her, you could tell she had no idea what was going on, because she had never had a real job and she didn't know what her research even meant. And that really made a big impact on me. And I called some of the PhD students that I worked with at Stony Brook and I asked them for their advice. I even went out and interviewed for PhDs when I was in California. I got offered some like graduate opportunities. And one of the PhD students, Rebecca Culp,
Yeah.
she told me to read this book that is now in Tara's office. It's called Getting What You Came For, A Guide to Graduate School. It's from like 1988 or something crazy, but
That's cool. So it's relevant.
still relevant. The first couple chapters are about
Some of us were that age too.
Yeah, I should have found a tactful way to say something. I might have been different as an undergrad. So I read this book and the whole point of it, the thesis of it is the title, Getting What You Came For. Graduate school is about getting what you came for. And if you don't know what you're going for, if you don't know why you're in here, if you're just lost and scared to make a resume, that's not a good reason to go to graduate school in my book. And so I said no to all those offers. I came home and I kept on learning about how conservation works in the real world, and because that's where I want to be. And I love being in my community and in the real world. I'm in graduate school now, unfortunately. No. You didn't say that. But so because I work at PEP and because I know like what I want to do and I know where I want to go, I know that there is like a degree ceiling and I need to have a master's degree to be a director. And because I'm a Stony Brook University student, and well, an employee now, I can take classes one at a time, right? So I don't have the experience of graduate school like my friends had, where they were just all in, right? So I'm just doing little pieces, and it's because I'm getting exactly what I came for. I'm here to refine the skills I already have, not to try to find some and then hopefully make it work. So I have a really intense feeling about it, but I think it's worth talking about.
Which program are you on?
I'm in the MCP program because it's the only one that lets you take night classes, which I resent. Okay.
So I guess just to piggyback off of that, I started as an employee at Stony Brook, with just a bachelor's, and I used to utilize the employee work as well to get my master's, and that's what I did in SOMOS. And you know, it's the one-off. Difficulty is finding that graduate program that offers the flexibility, like the MCP program or like technological systems. That works for you, but you don't have to jump right in to graduate program. You would check with potential employers about what kinds of educational opportunities they may, like, would they cover tuition for those sorts of things.
Just as a quick note here, because unfortunately our fifth presenter is not able to make it. She's had an emergency come up. Valiana graduated in December 2023 the sustainability studies, and in some ways, she's a really good fit for this. She is currently an analyst for the MTA bus company, and she oversees the Staten Island bus depot, and she does a lot of analysis of ridership and kind of figuring out what are the correct schedules. And she is currently in a master's program, but as she said, she got her job and then realized that they would help pay for her master's program. So it was, again, kind of working and seeing what she really wanted to do. She had some wide interest. She knew she was interested in kind of urban design components. She did not necessarily know that the MTA was going to be the fit that she found it to be. She's very excited about it. I've already, just to let those of you who are not graduating this year, she's now pre-booked for next year's alumni panel. But as she said, one of the opportunities was that the MTA does help to cover the full cost of her master's. So again, those opportunities, can be there and you can get really great jobs. For her, as she said, it was about rising up through the ranks, that she would need it eventually, but not for the job that she got. Sorry, she's been texting me.
Yeah, I think it's kind of the bottom line with the masters is that you don't really need it to get a job in the field, but there are some places where you will be excluded consideration if you don't have a master's. And so that's like, if you look it up and you look into it, your like dream job is one of those places, like things that you're going to need to have the graduate degree, then it might be worth it. But if you're graduating, if you're just getting a master's to delay your like basically if you're like, I love the structure of school and I'm gonna stay in it. Don't go into debt for your master's, like don't just pick something because it'll do for now, because you want to make sure that it's actually like the right choice. Better off doing something like SCA, which we already heard amazing SCA, or like internships or things like that can get you some like experience, figure out what you like really want to do. If you're also a total social media freak like me and you're like, I don't know if people in this field actually need masters, you can look up people on LinkedIn who are at the organizations that you're interested in. Let's say it's an Asian conservancy, and often like you can go to this place on LinkedIn and see people, and you can just click and see like what kind of experience they have. You can go on staff pages and look up like the experience that people have in different, like on public websites. You can do some sleuthing to figure out if you actually like need to do the graduate degree. And you're already talking to 4 people who don't, or are in the process of it, so it's not necessary.
And I just wanted to add that you reminded me of something, and I obviously have lots of feelings. Let me know if you want to talk about this later. But when you think about the structure of an organization, right? You have a director of an organization, and then like everyone who does specific types of work under that, and then like the technicians that are out there actually doing the work. When you think about going to work for any organization, if you hyper specify what you study, if you get a master's because you say one day I want to be the director, you cannot go backwards. So you don't get to have that experience of being a technician, right? So I was able to go to Channel Islands National Park and hike off trail and like get dropped off in helicopters in the real wilderness and hike around and map out things and do a bunch of cool things. My boss had a master's degree and she was helping to leverage funds and make conservation happen and doing all these important things. But she wished that she could come with me to go into the field and get this real hands-on experience. Like you can't go backwards. So it's worth it. When I think about it, I wanted to have the experience of being a hands-on person, really understand how the world works, and then specifically know why I was moving up, because I had accomplished those things because of that system.
Yeah, it's both good points. Internships, summer internships go a real long way. I've hired biologists on my team based off of just work they've done, one summer. I do a lot of work with terrestrial tortoises. So bios on my team, like they did some of that work as well one summer. And I was like, what, sounds like it'd be a great fit. And it's been over almost 2 years now, and I know I made the right hiring decision on that biologist because of one internship in 22, maybe.
That kind of feeds into a question that a couple of people had asked me beforehand, like what experiences, what classes would you say that you would really recommend? And this can come both from your own experiences as having been the undergrad, but also now as someone who is potentially hiring. And I know you just talked about internships. I think you had mentioned GIS. Are there other, experiences or classes or things that you go as an undergraduate make you get this experience now? Versus maybe trying to do it once you're out in the professional world?
Definitely. So in my field right now, there's a lot of species work and so just touch on like you could potentially pursue a master's and then also professional certification like CWB certified wildlife biologist or professional wetland scientist. Those carry a lot of weight in my industry as well. So I've actually been looking into becoming a certified wildlife biologist. I did not take one of 4 courses required for that, which were mammalogy, herpetology, and ornithology, and entomology. And it's very difficult to find those specific courses like later on when you live in a different state and they're only offered at like, gosh, I don't know if Stony has those courses, but it's been a challenge. Like I need those courses now in order to get this professional certification, and it's just kind of a roadblock. So yeah, if you can take any wildlife courses, wetlands, soils courses, and GIS, I think that will be, if you're looking to go into this field, carry the most weight out of course.
Mia, it looked like you had something you'd wanted to say when I started.
Definitely I'm gonna plug you for technical communication, which I don't know what the actual course.
It's now SUS 301.
Okay, perfect. That was awesome. I'm really on my hiring advice, like little soapbox right now. But that course was great because I feel like I went in and you were literally like, hey, you know how to write an email? You thought you did. You don't. And then you go through that. You go through writing cover letters, you go through applying for grants and doing public speaking and presentations. And it was really nice to be in this playground of university and be able to kind of get through all those awkward moments you might have with all those communication things in the professional world while you're here and you're a little bit, you have time to kind of go back and forth. People can give you really good qualified advice on that. Also career center folks, definitely I went to career center, wasn't a course, but any of that opportunities that you take advantage of when you're here in Stony Brook are gonna set you up well, because a lot of people have that, oh my gosh, I went to school and no one taught me how to do my taxes type thing. And it's like these are the courses that teach you those skills. Definitely do that. Another course that I really enjoyed was also the GIS. That was really great because that's also something that's really fun. Everyone asks that you have any GIS experience. They don't necessarily need you to be good at it. They just kind of want to know if you're already familiar. That's great. And then you'll get trained on the job to actually do what you need to do. And science communication, the Alumni Center here at Stony Brook, they have a couple of undergraduate courses and a graduate certificate in science communication. And everyone here, you're going to have to talk about science at some point. And that is also going to set you up with those skills, the public speaking skills that maybe you won't be on panels, but you definitely have to talk and advocate for yourself in other settings. How are you going to advocate for your research and talk to people who can help you get things done if you don't have that skill? Build that now. Just get it out of the way. Those are all courses I really enjoyed here.
Nice. Yeah, definitely. Those courses you mentioned too. Technical writing is another one. That's a peeve of mine. I look at a report and you need some more content. And also too, don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone. When I first started in my career, I was doing stormwater inspections, working on contaminated site remediation. It wasn't the real glamorous working with tortoises and grasshopper sparrows like I do now. I definitely have to work up to that. And being on sites that are I hate to say it, contaminated sites, there's some of that working with these. But that was also really interesting work, doing air quality monitoring, groundwater sampling, and just working to sort of remediate the site. Big project I worked on was Edge on Hudson. Jesse, you might be familiar with this one up in Yonkers, right by the bridge, right by the Yonkers Lighthouse. It's a big residential, mixed-use commercial development. Former General Motors plant, so the entire site is contaminated, isobutylene, petroleum byproducts. So basically, we did all of the groundwater sampling and air quality monitoring during construction to make sure that there were no contaminants that were sort of leaving the site and getting to the surrounding communities.
Just, was there anything that you can think from your own experiences as an undergrad, or even now that you're out and you're the director, kind of looking at volunteers and at, staff coming in that you would recommend?
Yeah, I will say when I was in college, I was hyper focused on plants. I worked in 2 greenhouses. I was like barely keeping afloat with my studies because I just loved plants so much. And I kind of wish I had diversified that a little bit, and definitely grant writing, because I'm learning that as I go and it's hard and I wish I had taken classes in it. GIS for sure. I'm actually hiring 4 interns right now, and pretty much all of them are going to have some sort of GIS background. And that's like really holds a lot of weight for me for them to be able to do that, and have the confidence to do it on their own. So yeah, I wish I had diversified a little bit in like my sciences classes, and maybe did more, if I could have, like, I haven't been in school for so long. I don't even know what Stony Brook has anymore, but if I could have taken more classes on birds, insects, pollinator plant interactions, that's all stuff that I use a lot. And I see when we're hiring gardeners and supervisors, that a lot of them are starting to have that background, and that's really kind of cool.
The only thing I could add to the Stony Brook classes, I don't even think they count the class that I'm thinking about, but I took your class, which is amazing. I agree with you totally. Because you definitely don't know how to write an email, hilarious. And I took a restoration ecology class here with Will Bowman, who is an environmental contractor. I don't know if he teaches that here anymore, but I would keep an eye out for different classes like that are taught by professors that are like visiting, or like part-time professors, because they have really interesting perspectives when the professors have real jobs outside of here. I would look out for those.
I did invite her because I liked her as a former student.
There are a couple people that have gigs outside of here. And definitely before you do something, work in a lab. You have to work in a lab to understand what doing science means. It's really the only way. Get close to the graduate students, find them, meet them, make them your best friends, because you have to learn from them. And the only way to do that is to really get in there and like connect with them, to learn about why they are who they are, and how are they happy with their decisions. Like you need to be in there. So go and fumble around with the bugs and burners.
But yeah, to Jade's point too, like having that field experience goes like a real long way over just classroom experience. Like it carries a lot more weight getting out there in the swamps and like throwing on your like wetland buck boots and just like really getting out there and really learning your plants, learning your wildlife, and just just immersing yourself in the system that you're working in.
So thinking about the fact that, the undergraduates are soon, some sooner than others, going to be entering into that professional world. What is the one piece of advice either you were given or you wish someone had given you? Because it is, I know I've had a lot of students coming in to talk to me, they're graduating in a month and they're starting to get that, oh God, what's next? Yeah, that kind of, and there is legitimately a fear sometimes, because your world is changing quite a bit. Even if you're going directly to grad school, it's still a different experience than what your undergraduate world is. So what piece of advice, and it may have been something you were given, or maybe you wish someone had given you, what would you tell that soon to be graduate?
I guess I would just say, don't be afraid to go for it, and we'll just figure it out along the way. Can't tell you how many times, like, I have a team of really talented biologists. At least once a month, we're hit with a scenario. We don't know what to do, we're like, well, we'll figure it out. We're actually talking about getting t-shirts made with the phrase, we'll figure it out. Literally what we do, and that's what it comes down to. Like, you can study as much as you want and take those tools and just applying it to real world scenarios. Like, don't be afraid to just figure it out, like, as you go.
I also, on the vein of figuring it out, like, it's okay if you actually hate what you do, if that makes any sense for me. Like, I didn't go with like my path to getting to this career, because I was very lucky, and I've been in this job since I graduated, but, during, like, during my time at Stony Brook, I originally came in thinking like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go be a therapist, look at that, and then I started looking for psychology research, and I realized, oh, that actually sounds terrible, and I won't do it. And then likewise, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to environmental studies, it's gonna be great. I really enjoyed doing a class with Dr. Kaplan, which I think you can still look at home, which is her, toxicology lab. And that kind of got my toes dipped into, doing some like lab research, and I was like, okay, this is cool, this is cool. Had the great privilege of going to Madagascar to study abroad here, also do those scholarships, or if you can pay for it, go, it's amazing, do study abroad while you're in Stony Brook opportunity. You're in Madagascar, you're like, this is the best place to be doing field research, it's gorgeous, there's lemurs, what's not to love. And then I realized, I was like, oh, I actually also kind of hate field research, is the most beautiful place to do it. That is a sign. So I kind of felt crazy when that was happening, because I was like, why am I not as excited as everyone says I should be? We had an opportunity to do independent research there, and so some people were chasing lemurs at night, and other people were looking for frogs, and doing all, again, the great things you would take advantage of if you love being in the jungle. And I chose to make a coloring book and to show kids how to do origami. So that was also a sign. So realizing, okay, you gotta try these things out, you're doing something, oh man, I actually don't like this, and everyone's saying I should. That's fine, you should like take that into consideration, and that's gonna guide you into doing what you actually do like. So if you leave this university, you take your first job, you're like, this stinks. Quit it, hit the bricks, try something different, don't be afraid to do that, it's a cool part of the process.
Yeah, so I would say that, just sticking to what we've been saying, like that, I really think that the aspect of genuine curiosity, like, is above all else the most important thing that you can have, and to really lean into that, because that's what creates connection with other people, and that connection is gonna get you a job. Like, that connection and the ability to advocate for yourself because you feel confident in those connections that you've made. And don't be afraid to break the mold, right? So if you are applying for a handful of jobs, right, and they make you rewrite your resume into each one of those little stupid boxes where they don't want you to attach it, like, I got my Channel Islands job because I did that and sent it to them, and I knew that it was just sitting in a pile somewhere. Anytime that a job tells you that you don't have to write a cover letter, they're lying. Write the cover letters, write it.
Always, unless they specifically say they are not going to accept them or allow it to
Right.
hook it on, write the cover letter.
Write a beautiful cover letter and find who your boss is gonna be. So Channel Islands National Park, I was just graduated. I was like, I'm never gonna have a job. My parents were right. I wrote the cover letter, made a beautiful resume, stapled it all together, right? Put it in an email, sent it directly to my future boss and said, you can stop looking at resumes, I'm your girl. Like, I'm who you want, you're welcome. I just like cut your work day in half. And she was like, you're right. And then I got that job. So like, just because it's an online portal of like, this is how we're accepting applications, like, at the end of the day, we're all people and people want to connect with each other. And that's in how to get work done, that's in how to get a job, it's like overall. And people only really invest in you when you have that genuine curiosity, I think, is what people really value.
Jess, what are your thoughts?
Yes, my first piece of advice is one that a high school teacher gave me that we all were annoyed about, but she just simply said, don't worry, it's all going to work out. She said that when we were applying to college, and she said, when you graduate college, when you're paying for your student loans, when you're having family difficulties, when you hate your job, it's all going to work out. And I still remind myself of that. I graduated high school in 2012, and I think about that all the time. So that's the first piece of advice you probably don't want, but you should still take it. It's all going to be fine. The second thing is kind of like that breaking out of the mold. I will say my first job out of college, again, hyper focused on plants. I was like, all I want to do is work at a botanical garden. I did that. I worked at NYBG. It was hell. I worked there for 4.5 years. It was the most physically, mentally demanding job I've ever had. And it was one of those places where it's a good union job. You stay for 40, 45 years, you get your pension and you live off of that. And 4.5 years in, I said, I am not doing this anymore. And everyone thought I was crazy. And I had to really trust myself and know it was going to work out. And I knew I wanted to manage people. I love people just as much as I love plants. And it did. I kind of just followed my heart, which is also like gross advice, but it's true. That passion that, I think people I work with now see like it's like, it's inherent in me now. I love this job and I wouldn't have had it if I didn't take a chance on myself, and on, the organizations that I've worked with too.
Does anyone have any last questions? If not, I'd like to say thank you so much to our phenomenal panel. Thank you so much for joining us. And for all the really great advice. Thank you, Jess, from actually joining out in the field. Good luck with all of your plantings there. And thank you to those of you who were able to come in person. So this has been really great. And I think we heard a lot of good advice. So thank you. Woo!
Bye.
Bye, everyone online.